Hello, dear viewers. Namaskar. Welcome to Moksha Media. You are with Moksha Hiremat. On the other day, I told you the four types of classification of a language. They are geographical classification, racial classification, typological classification, and genealogical classification. Let us discuss the first two classification of a language. They are geographical classification and racial classification. In the beginning of the study, the geographical classification was very famous. The linguists concentrate on the geography of that country or a particular area. Whatever languages that geography contains, they concentrate on those languages and come to a conclusion that these languages are belong to this and that. But sometimes this geographical classification does not yield proper results. In a country like India, we have different languages. Even though geographically it is one country, we have hundreds of languages and hundreds of dialects in this geographical area. So you cannot say this dialect is belong to that language is belong to that geography, etc., etc. And the style of the language will be changed when we go beyond 25 or 30 kilometers, even though people speak the same language. So that is why it is very difficult to come to conclusion regarding the origin or regarding the relation of a language to that particular geographical context. It may be one thing in south, another thing in the north, other thing in the east, and another thing on the west. So, even though these geographical areas under one nation, under one control, but they have different types of languages. So, in such a situation, it is difficult to come to conclusion regarding the nature or regarding the relation of a particular language in a particular geographical area. This geographical area yields some result, but it has so many limitations. And when this geographical area or geographical classification has this limitation, the linguists concentrate on another type of classification. They concentrate on racial classification. They think that racial classification will give us the complete picture of a language of a particular race. But it has also its own limitations. For example, countries like Africa, Australia, America, and India have some problems. In African countries, when a particular race is migrated to another area, it can continue its own language or it can yield to the dominant language in that area due to so many reasons. In the African continent, the races use their own language, but when they are migrated to other countries, especially English spoken countries, their language differed and they have forgotten their own language and adapted the language of that area, the language of that domain. So their language is completely changed. So then you cannot say this language is belonging to that race or that language is belonging to this race. So the linguists are in confusion. What to do in such a case? They come to know the complete limitation of this racial classification. That is why they try to look out, they try to use different types of classifications. But anyhow, this geographical classification and racial classifications are useful in some of the cases, but they cannot become a criteria for all the languages. In a particular context, in a particular area, in a particular race, they have their importance, no doubt about it. So, when one race is migrated to other area, you cannot relate the language of that area to that country. For example, in Karnataka, we have Siddhis. Siddhis are from Africa. Whenever English were rulers, at that time they brought Siddhis to India as laborers, and Siddhis settled here and they become Indians now. But they have forgotten, they don't use their language which was used once upon a time in Africa. Now they use either Kannada or English or some other language as the case may be, because it depends upon the conversion also. When a person converts to other faiths, automatically his language would be different, his norms would be different, his style of speaking is different, and his other related things are also different. In such a case, you cannot relate the language of Siddhis to their original language which was spoken in Africa. The same thing can be said of Negroes. The language of Negroes was different. But when they were migrated to America, automatically they adapted English as a language due to so many factors. Language of rulers, or language of conversion, or the language of the persons who converted them to other faiths, and etc. etc. So they have adopted that language and gradually they have forgotten their own language. In such a situation, you cannot come to conclusion that this language is belong to this race or that race. So like this, so many things go on and on regarding the classification of languages. So that is why linguists, that is the language scientists, try to understand language in a different way and try to use different types of classifications. They have seen for alternative classifications. If one classification has limited yields, then they have looked for another classification. So it goes on and on. It is common, in case of research, in case of inventions, in case of discoveries. Man is a curious animal. If he fails in one thing, he tries to get it in another thing. Man is always not pessimistic. He is also an optimistic animal. linguists are also optimists, and optimized optist linguistics try look at another classification, and they use that classification to the origin of language, origin of that language or this language. Like this, it goes on and on. So we come to know the limitations of geographical classification and the limitation of racial classification. To a little extent, they give us results, but if we go beyond that limitation, these classification becomes helpless. They become not useful. That is why, in one way or another way, linguists try to analyze and understand language of a different area, of different countries, of different races, geographies, and they try to apply another classification such as typological classification and genealogical classification. Anyhow, these two types are enough in this episode. Other two types of classification, that is typological classification and genealogical classification, can be seen in the next episode. Subscribe and share it. See you in the next episode. Thank you. Namaskar.